Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We're committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Okay, so welcome everyone to today's conversation. It's going to be an interesting one. The title just looks scandalous enough. Must I leave my family an inheritance? This will be fun. I must admit the title is a bit, doesn't tell the full story, but it's not necessarily that the person doesn't want to leave any money to the family. Maybe the person can't. Maybe the person just won't. Well, we'll get into that in a moment. So, shout out to the Penny Hoarder. We have a link in there. They are the source of the of this question that we saw. It's an article, and the editor just responded to the question that someone asked. I will read the question that was asked in a moment. Just inviting Adam and Dennis to do request the mic join up here if you can. Today's going to be an interesting conversation, and shout out to Dennis for finding this article and this question for us to discuss. So just to get into it, I'll just read the facts and then we can take some initial reactions about it. It's a very short question that the person asked, and it goes: I'm a single 40-something woman, and my mother recently passed in October. I have an older brother and sister, and they are both married with kids. The three of us will be splitting the inheritance equally. I'm more aware than ever that I will have to make a will myself now. My siblings insist that I should be leaving my estate to their children, and I was rather taken aback. Should I be obligated to leave my money to my nieces and nephews because I choose not to get married or have children? Any advice? So yeah, those are the facts of the case. I think this is an open and shut case. The person asks a very simple question. Should I be obligated to leave money to my nieces and nephews because I choose not to get married or have children? I think today we can have one of our shortest sessions, and the answer will be simply no, and we can go home. At least that's my opinion. I'm curious to know what other people think, so feel free to jump in to share your thoughts on this. But yeah, there are a few keywords that I want us to focus on. All right. The first is, would it be wrong to not leave the person any money, the family any money? Another word is obligation. I think that's the key word here, the obligation. All right. Is there an obligation? And now reading into even the request by the older brother and sister, you get a sense of entitlement. These are some thoughts that are coming up that we'll get into discussing. I see Dennis up here. Dennis, how you doing?
Hi, Ellington. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I see that your internet is back.
It's back.
Sent you all to the Stone Ages last week, eh?
It wasn't easy.
It's interesting that ATLT go that I wasn't enjoying. They were the ones who came.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, Dennis, you shared this. What are your initial thoughts after reading this question?
Yes. So after reading this, I think what came to mind was that as you said earlier, the sense of entitlement that sometimes our family members have when it comes to inheritance or sharing of property. So sometimes because someone has helped you before, they expect you to do the same. Or sometimes even by virtue of you being the family member, they expect you to leave them something behind when you are drafting your will or something. So I think this one is an open and shut case. I don't think there's an obligation to leave anything for anyone behind, unless you want to, irrespective of whether the person has helped you before or not. It's not an obligation for me.
Gotcha. So also aligning that it's not an obligation, and perhaps later in the conversation we'll look into when it may be some type of way so that we don't all just to play devil's advocate at some point, just to see under which circumstances. And I can just preempting that some of the stuff that you said, if somebody helped you, fine, so that's something that may come up. So let's talk about this obligation. This person, I read this last part of the question again. Should I be obligated to leave my money to my nieces and nephews because I chose not to get married or have children? And it gets me thinking about this. One, there's no law that says so, right? There's no law that says you have to leave money to anyone. In Ghana, we have the interstate law that if somebody dies without a will, they would share their property instead of family member just coming to carry everything, and some people will suffer for it. Later in this conversation, we'll talk about the interstate law. I'll share a link to an article or a link to the law, a copy of it, so that people can just download a PDF to quickly see what they're up against if they don't set up a will. But yeah, no law saying that it must go somewhere. You get to choose because you choose the way you want to live. Some of us wake up early in the morning and go and hustle and try to grow so that we can make a living to be rich. And some people want to relax and just have an okay job, have a comfortable job, drive some Corolla. It's okay. Some people too are shooting for Benz, Rolls Royce and stuff. And it all comes with trade-offs. The more money you want, assuming the way to get it is by work. The more money you want, the more you have to work. All right. Some people also choose they want to have a family. Then someone will say, well, if I have to have kids, that means I have to spend money to take care of them. Rather than the money that I used to pay school fees, I can use it to buy a Benz. Maybe buy a new Benz every year, because you are comparing that to private school, maybe even in Switzerland or something. You understand? And you want to chop life. You want to enjoy yourself. You don't want to worry about diapers and all that. So you don't want to have kids. Does that mean somebody should force you to put your money when you die? You have to give the money to their children. No, you made your choices. They made their choices. There are also certain joys that parents get for having children that some people who choose not to have children will not get those joys. When you talk to anyone who's a parent, they will talk about how the joy of seeing their child grow, the first time they hold their baby. All these joys are things that somebody who chooses not to have children is depriving themselves of. It's a trade-off that they are making. I'll give up this so that I can get something else. I'll give up having children so that I can save my money and enjoy life and take whatever kind of job I want anytime, anywhere in the world, because I don't have to worry about relocating with a family. They want to save themselves all that hassle. So they've gotten the fruits of their labor. Why should they force themselves to give it to, why should they be forced to give it to someone else? That's a question that is raised. So I don't think there should be an obligation. Everyone makes choices. Everyone has their trade-offs. Yes, if we think about it in the grander scheme of the society, that's why the government would incentivize certain people or will incentivize certain activities that will be for the good of the larger society. For example, in Ghana, we have what's it called? Maternal leave, where you can go on leave for about 3 months paid leave with when you give birth, because the state wants to have a growing population, or at least new people should be born into the world to replace the people who are dying, so that the state can go on. These are activities that would promote that. If somebody chooses not to have children, they never get that maternity leave of going to stay at home. Yeah, so for 3 months. So it's all trade-offs, right? So yeah, I feel like people should not be forced. Another thing is when you look at countries where the laws actually work and they have some tax benefits to having children. Single people without children have fewer tax benefits. How about that? Whereas even in Ghana, even though it's quite a complicated process, and you need a very patient accountant to help you navigate how to get all those tax reliefs. There are tax reliefs to people who have children, single people, who don't have any children will not have those tax reliefs. In fact, even in certain places, there are tax reliefs to people who are married. Again, if you choose to stay single, you won't get some of those tax reliefs. It's all a trade-offs, pros and cons. So if someone wants to live their life in a certain way, why should they force you to let them enjoy the fruit of your labor and not get? And how do you not get the autonomy to decide where you put your money? All right. Then, is any thoughts on this issue of obligation?
Yes, I think it also has me thinking about the way we are brought up and the situations we are brought up in. So most of the time, it's a lot of people contributing to, especially in the extended families, our family system, a lot of people contributing to maybe your school, especially when things are not going well, an uncle here or there dipping into their pockets to help you. So I think it's sort of embedded in the way we are brought up in our culture that, look, we've helped you to make it. So if you're not going to have children, or even if you have children, you are supposed to leave something behind for someone. So maybe it's not directly our fault of being greedy or anything. It's maybe the way we are brought up, the norms here in Europe or America, they are mostly nuclear families and all of that. So they might have a strong case for not leaving anything behind for someone. But for us who are brought up in very large families, cousins here, cousins there, an uncle has helped you somewhere, so you have to help the son. It becomes a bit complicated in our case.
So, Dennis, you bring up a good point about our backgrounds and the way people have supported us and how we also want to give back. And there are two aspects. There's while you are alive and when you are gone. All right, but let's lump them all together. I'm so again, this is away from obligation. We are moving the conversation away from obligation. We are moving it. We are trying to play devil's advocate and say, okay, and let's see, under what circumstances will it be okay, or will it be expected that you should leave an inheritance? All right, our culture. I'm curious if your family has helped you and they've been really supportive, would you not want to leave something for them? I think such a conversation even comes up among people who are entitled. And entitlement usually comes from a point of not deserving. All right. If you have some nieces and nephews who've always been there for you whenever you need someone to help you, you want to run errands for you, those people are always there. Would you not want to do that? Yes, of course, I'm premising it on the fact that maybe the subject is a good person. But then a lot of the times the entitlement comes from people who are not helpful. And then even while we are alive, there's this issue of black tax, and I encourage people to go back into our archives, check on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, just search in our channel for black tax. We've talked about black tax a couple of times. And it's this sense of, okay, we helped you to get to a certain point, so you have to help us. I heard a quote recently, not by our hand, but in our lap. Yes, our culture says these are the things that we should do. But does that mean we should continue them? I'm all for supporting things that are beneficial. If somebody is good to you, return the favor. But at what point does does that favor end? Someone may pay your school fees for 1 year, and then they will expect you to pay their children's fees for 12 years. Is that fair? No. But these are some of the expectations that people have because of culture. Like if we need to establish, if you are helping somebody, are you doing it because you want something in return, a direct quid pro quo, or you pay, or it's a loan? Like we need to move towards that because a lot of people are using emotions to hold people back, and there's a lot of emotional blackmail about people's money, and many people are not able to progress. If you help me go to school, that's okay. If I can pay the school fees back to you, I would. Let's treat it as a loan. If you need some help, I'll do it. But at which point do we say enough is enough, or what you are asking me is too much in return? So yes, there's the gratitude for the help that was given, but we need to know at which point it becomes black tax. And I feel like when people start being entitled to these kind of things, There's no limit to the things that they'll ask for. There's no limit to their expectations. And sometimes those requests come from really places that are inconsiderate. In our previous conversations about black tax, there was somebody, well, you started working, you are barely earning even 1,000 cedis, and by default, just bring me 10-20% of your income just because. And the person doesn't need it, but it's just symbolic. But to that person who just started working, that's important. Maybe they have some student debts that they have to cover. They have to think about rent. Maybe they're going to live in a different town. They have to think about transportation, food, all these things. But all are undue burdens that are put on people. Why not allow this young person to grow, pick up their career, reinvest whatever money they are earning in an education that will help them grow their career faster, and then ask them to support the younger people in kind, if not even in cash, in kind. How they learn how to apply for schools, how to apply for jobs. They can do that for the younger people. These are some things that we can do to show gratitude rather than make certain demands that just decapitate people, But I feel like that's even going off the topic of the issue of even inheritance, So when it comes to the inheritance, I feel like, yeah, there are some mean people who you help them and they don't want to leave anything for you. That's okay. That's all right. But you have to, if you are going to be entitled to this, maybe you should ask yourself, why am I helping somebody? If you feel like, if you'll be offended by somebody leaving you out of their inheritance, maybe don't help the person. It's really that simple. It's sad that we have to say this, but having that unrealistic expectation is just putting undue pressure on people, Let's see. So speaking of entitlements, right? At which point can somebody feel entitled to this? And again, let's bring it back to this case. This person hasn't brought up the major issue about why about the relationship between them and their nieces and nephews. It's a very short text. However, the way it's written, it sounds like the siblings are expecting the money to go to their children just because she doesn't have children. So then I ask, should they just expect that? Are they entitled to that? Any thoughts, Dennis?
They are not. They are not. But I think they've assessed the situation and then seen an opportunity that, look, you don't have children. Obviously, if someone is going to benefit, it's the next best option, which are our children. So for them, they are expecting the money or the inheritance to come to their children. But the question becomes, what if now the lady decides to have children or a family now? Would they still expect it? So I think it's based on the situation, and no, they shouldn't feel entitled that in that case. If I don't have children, then that means I even have the option of spending all of my money before I die. So no, they shouldn't feel entitled.
I like the plot twist you brought. Before we get to the plot twist, for me, I think there's no entitlement here. Like, no. Maybe they can try to be nice to their auntie and hope their auntie will put them in their will, but to feel entitled, just chill at your place and just wafa go pay kind of thing. There's this saying we have, wafa go pay. Somebody who knows that they have some rich uncle somewhere and they are just misbehaving because they know that they are going to get the inheritance. They don't work, nothing like that. So these kids need to try to be nice and nice to their auntie. But yeah, plot twist. What if she decides to go have kids now, just out of spite? Boom. Well, you said she didn't have kids, and that was the reason why she gave them money. So now she has a child, or she goes to adopt a child. Now what you gonna do? Well, you're out of a supposed inheritance you're expecting, right? Okay, I'll give you another plot twist. One thing about inheritance, we tend to think only about family, but we all know that when we came to this world, we didn't get to choose our family. If you are fortunate and you have a supportive family, great. I think I've been very fortunate with the family I got, very supportive, and I intend to leave them things. You understand? Even my insurance now, they are on it. You understand? So for me, I would, even though I'm coming from a place where I feel like I have been supported by my family, there's a certain level to the entitlement that they should expect. All right. And then, but I didn't get to choose them. And sometimes, you just have to go through certain emotions. Sometimes you don't like certain decisions, but you just have to live with it. However, there are some people in our lives that we got to choose that to let them into our lives. And they have played very good roles in our lives too. How about the money goes to your best friend? How about the money goes to the random stranger who helped you when you were in a tough position? I'm not saying all of it, but bits and pieces here and there. There are so many other people to be considered when you think about when you are dead and gone, who can get access to your money? How about a charity or a cause that you really care about? To say that, okay, now that I'm gone, I won't be spending this money again. I don't need it to pay my bills. But I really cared a lot about orphans in a certain town. So my money should go to them. Now, there's this part that makes me scoff. Some people even set up trusts for their pets, but story for another day. Like, there are so many other options of people who actually could be bringing value to this person. All right. Why should it be only the family? Why must it be them? Why not any of these people? So yeah, that's my thoughts. Many other people can be considered, many other causes, many other organizations, and they may even provide way more value. Or Ben, what do you think about that?
I think you are right. Thinking about other options is also good, but it's difficult. It's difficult in our part of the world, especially when people think about their name. So people think about their reputation and everything that they will leave behind. So what did Uncle leave us? He gave all this money to orphans. He left his family for us to starve, that kind of stuff. So it becomes difficult when people care about perception and all of that. But it's a good thing. If I care about money convos and want to leave all my money for money convos when I die, I should be able to. I should be able to do that. But it becomes difficult when leaving your inheritance behind, you are leaving people or your close family behind, and then you are scared about the name you are leaving behind and all of that. Yeah.
It's interesting you say it's difficult. Maybe I can't relate because of my family background. I know that you have more family influence and you've had a closer knit family than I have. And I'm trying to, maybe you could shed some more light about what makes it difficult, because this is my take. People's perceptions, bro. Let's be real. If we followed people's perceptions, we wouldn't be sitting in the chairs that we are sitting in right now.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You could be doing the right thing, and people will perceive that what you are doing is wrong. Does that mean you shouldn't do the right thing? No.
Mm-hmm.
So just because people are hating on something doesn't mean your resulting action should be you're just gonna go by whatever will please them. And fun fact is, you're not Jollof. You're not party Jollof. You can't please everyone. You can't please everyone all the time. So some people say yes, some people say no. I don't know how many people remember this skit about Mr. Ibu. Or may so rest in peace. He passed a few weeks ago. But yeah, this was back in the day. Mr. Ibu and Popo in a Nigerian movie. When it started with him, and he and his son were going somewhere. They were riding and they were both riding a bicycle. Then a pedestrian looked at them and scoffed and said, "The two of you on this big bicycle, why are you stressing out the bicycle?" So they got off the bike. The man rode the bike and the boy walked by the side. Another person said, "This man is wicked. Why is he letting his son walk while the boy is why is he letting the boy walk while he's riding the bicycle?" They switched rules. Now the boy rode the bicycle and the man walked. Another person said, This child is disrespectful. How is he letting his father walk while he's riding the bicycle?" You know what they did? They just left the bicycle and then they carried their load and they just kept going. Oh, in fact, there was no. In fact, before that, they were both walking and riding and like dragging the bicycle along, just walking along with the bicycle. Then another person said, "Why are you? How foolish can you people be? You have a bicycle and both of you are walking. Like, how does this make sense?" That's when they gave up. They just left the bicycle there and they walked with their load. So a tool that could have been productive for them, that
Yeah.
bicycle, Now they just had to leave it there because of people's perceptions. Now I know some of these emotional ties are tough, but it's about time we start thinking through them. And also, I feel like there's an extreme of being too independent. Yes, that's true. And it has its negatives. But also, a lot of people take too much from their families and become too reliant on their families. The fact of life is the more you take from somebody, the more they will expect from you. It is what it is, right? So if you want to be taking so much from people, then you need to be ready to pay the Pied Piper, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and in those cases, when they come expecting, you have to put them in your inheritance, because it is what it is. If you didn't want to be obligated to them, then you should have found another way to go about it. But when it's mutually beneficial and you are willing to give as you receive, then life can get better. But just an empty sense of entitlement and people feeling obligated, it's gonna lead people to ruin. Like things that should be blessings for them end up becoming curses, right? I'll give another example. Family expectations. I just had an interesting conversation with my dad recently, and he was talking about some time he spent abroad, and people expected, like some of his family members were like, "Won't you take this person? Won't you take this other person?" When he was telling me the story, funny thing, I was like, even me, his own son, he didn't even take me along. Even me, his own son, he didn't take me along. I just used to go and visit him for vacation and come back. But people are like, well, he's had it good, and yet he won't help other people. But yes, here's the thing. He explained there's so many technicalities with his type of visa and his kind of job and how he couldn't bring people and how it would be difficult. And he talked about the risk that is involved and how some of his work colleagues who brought people in, some people just, oh man, I love this word the old man used, spirited away. Some people just disappeared. And some family members who can be troublesome because what are you going to do to them? You can't do anything to them, so they just be troublesome. Like there's all these risks, right? And so people have certain expectations without knowing the full picture, and it just raises unnecessary expectations. Yes, get some support. Like people should not leave their families behind. Try to support people in whatever way you can, even if they are not helping you. It's good to help make the world a better place, and charity begins at home. So do help your family. Just be careful how you do it. Don't do it in a way that makes them entitled. Don't do it in a way that promotes their laziness. If you give people free money and they are not working, some way. No, don't enable bad behavior. It's things that people need to think about. But anyway, looping it back to this inheritance issue. It got me thinking, and then it's again aligned with something that you said. When it's your name and you have a like while you're alive, you are worried about what people will think about the inheritance. But my question is even, how would they know who you are going to leave your money to? For example, if you have a will, while you're alive, you can just tell people. In fact, let me not even say my thought. What do you think? Is this something that you even need to discuss with people while you're alive? What do you think? And Mimi, I see in the audience, if you're in a position, Mimi and them, feel free to join in the conversation. I lost Dennis for a moment, but the answer to my own question, do you need to have a conversation with these people, with your family? As with all answers to all the answer to all questions in life, usually it depends, right? If these are people you trust, people you know that they've earned it and all, let them know. Oh yeah, you can share with them. Some people are more secretive, and if you are secretive, I can't. This is not something that we can just change your mind. Some people know that their families are treacherous. Some people's families, once they know you're in the world, they'll try to hurry, speed up that event. And not to sound so negative, but depending on where you're coming from and who you want to disclose some of these things to. Sometimes too, it's good to disclose the content of your will to people, especially someone will be your executor, and you have children, like, or there are some property or something that you need to be responsible for. Like, if you're going to bestow somebody with a certain responsibility, I think it's good that you give them a heads up. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable telling people about it, it's your personal business. Some people are comfortable sharing how much they make and their net worth with other people. That's cool. Some people also aren't. So it becomes an issue of personal preference. Just again, if it's an issue of you're going to bestow somebody with a responsibility, I think some heads up would be good. and of course also with people you can trust. So that then gets me to a point of talking about wealth. This person telling this story recently lost their mother, so they are in a place where they are thinking about their will. She's thinking about her will, and so it's a good thing for anyone, even if it's some small property that you have, even if it's one or two bank accounts, some retirement account, something. It's good to make a will. If you have any insurance policies, any retirement accounts, check the beneficiaries to those accounts. Make sure that you update it every couple of years or after every event. Like if you get married, you want to update it to your spouse to make sure that they are included in there, and it's not just going to only maybe your family or whoever was before then. If you have children, you want to start including them. um any significant life events. Other than that, reviewing the will every couple of years, 2 3 years, is good practice to make sure that everything is on point. And like we said last week about budgeting, you work hard to earn your money. You have a say in where the money goes. So why not make a will so that you can choose where your money will go when the time comes? Because the fact is that the time will come one day. Maybe not today, maybe in 50 years, maybe in 80 years, maybe in 100 years. But all things being equal, that time will come. So yeah, you need to make a will. In the absence of a will, you the laws, there are usually interstate laws. Interstate law is the law that would determine how your estate should be distributed. In case you are wondering, what are we talking about? Estate, that's the money you left behind, the property you've left behind, basically your net worth after you've left. The law has a way that it divides depending on various situations, and in a few moments I'll just give a few scenarios under Ghana interstate law. Dennis, do we have you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Mm-hmm. So, I was asking a question about, should you even be disclosing this kind of information with people? And something I mentioned was my take on it is, if you don't need to, if it's your personal issues, it's your personal matter. It's like, while you're alive, should you be telling people how much you make, how much your net worth is? But if you are secretive, if you are private, you can keep it private, right? But the scenario under which I believe you should let people know is, if you are going to bestow them with a responsibility, you're going to make them an executor, you're going to make them the custodian of your children in your absence, that kind of thing, you should let people know. Yeah, and if you trust the people around you, that they won't try to hasten the process to have you go so that they get the money, of course, let them know. But do you have any other thoughts on sharing this kind of information? It's kind of linked to what you were saying about people knowing these things.
Yeah, so I think just like you said, if you're making someone an executor or a trustee, you just have to let them know privately. But people always have a way of finding out things, especially people who you don't want to know. So you try and keep things secretive, but you hear from someone, oh, someone has disclosed that you have properties here and there and everywhere. But then from your side or from my side, I think it pays to be more secretive. I think we were talking about wealth sometime. I don't remember the topic we were like, and I was like, the ideal situation for me would be to have money and then be low key. No, you even said that that's your ideal situation. So it's best to keep if it's your wealth or properties, it's best to keep them under wraps and then inform the people that you choose to inform, in case that someone who doesn't need to know that information knows. Just do damage control. Yeah, I think that's all I have on that one.
Gotcha. There are benefits to anonymity. There are benefits to keeping these things quiet. But like you said, some people always know how to sniff out party jollof. Some people will show up at a wedding, a funeral, and not know anybody there because they had some jollof pie for one side. Those people, they would probably figure out that you have a will, or go and stir up some drama or something. But anyway, this is interesting, man. Yeah. Okay, so kind of bringing it to a close. There's this thing, information I just want to share with people, give people a perspective into the Ghana interstate law. Oh, wait. had it opened. This is interesting. Okay, so yeah, the Ghana interstate law, it states different scenarios, right? It's I hope this is the most recent version that I looked up. This one says Interstate Succession Act 1985. I hope that's the most recent version. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, and we can find the most up-to-date one. But yeah, it gives scenarios under which if people die without a spouse or without children, or if they are survived only by the spouse and child, if they are survived by just the spouse, if they are survived by just children, if they are survived by just parents, there's, even if they are survived by no one, there's a way to go about it, right? So let me just say, let's look at this one. If you are survived by a spouse and a child, this is something that would be interesting because in our old Ghanaian parlance, I used to hear a lot of these stories, but I think now it's getting better. A few of these stories coming out where the family just comes and takes all the property and kicks the wife, usually is the wife and the children out. In such a case, what does the law say? 3/16. They divide the property into 16 portions, and they give 16. They give 3 to the spouse. They give 9 to the surviving child or children. All right. So that goes there. Then 1/8, that's we could say is 2/16. So out of the 16 parts, 2 parts would go to the surviving parent if there's any. And then 1/8 would go, or which is also another 2 out of 16, would go in accordance to customary law. So if in customary law there's a way that they'll share it, and some nephew or something will take the money, at least that person, the customary law parts, whoever is or whichever group falls under the way the family or the tribe does it, they can figure out that 2 out of 16 portion of the estate. It's even possible that the spouse and the children can still get some money, because I know certain places they do, can they call it what, enade and ejade or something like that. Like you can inherit from your own parents. Some people you have to inherit from your uncle or something. So if you can customarily inherit from your own parents and your spouse, then you get even more in addition to what was originally coming to you. So all these stipulations are there. So hopefully anyone listening to us won't have to resort to the interstate law, but this may come up to people that you have no control over. If you have some family members who are deceased and these issues come up, just let people know that, hey, there's a lot of hand that is supposed to take care of this. Get in touch with the law and don't let anyone just try to walk all over you, because in such trying times you need all the support you can get, and financial is one of those supports you need. So I'll just recap or just reread that question, and then the question that we are talking about, and then we can call it a day. So this person is writing and they said, I am a single 40-something woman and my mother recently passed in October. I have an older brother and sister, and they are both married with kids. The 3 of us will be splitting the inheritance equally. I'm more aware than ever that I will have to make a will myself now. My siblings insist that I should be leaving my estate to their children, and I was rather taken aback. Should I be obligated to leave my money to my nieces and nephews because I chose not to get married or have children? Yeah, that was the question. We talked about it. The simplest answer we could give was effectively no, you are not obligated. However, and we gave reasons why. However, in terms of the nice thing to do, if people have supported you, there's a case for you to want to give back to them while you're alive and before you go. And then, as you mentioned, if you want to spend all the money on your own while you're alive, you can blow it. Outside of your family too, there are options. There are other people who may be of more value to you, and you may want to help them out. That's there too. So yeah, these are all things that have come up, and I encourage everyone to get a will to make sure that they are covered, their loved ones are covered after their demise. Then, is any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Yes, so I think we've dissected the topic well. The lessons are clear. You should not feel any pressure with your own money or your own estate. You should be intentional about your own inheritance, or don't feel pressured by anyone. It's your money, it's your inheritance, and you should determine where it goes. If you need to speak to someone, there are professionals who do that. Speak to someone, then see how you can plan your estate or your inheritance when you are not there. I think it would be interesting to see a study on why people, because I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and then we were talking about people not having wells, especially in Africa or in Ghana. So it'll be interesting to see a study on how people don't have wells, maybe because of illiteracy, maybe because of the cost of finding lawyers or something like that. So I think in future spaces we would explore something like that. But all the lessons we've learned here are very true and valid. Be intentional and don't feel any pressure to give your money to someone.
Great, thanks for those reminders. And speaking of talking to people, you could always talk to your investment friend. So get on Instagram, look up at investment_friend. They are your investment friends. They are willing to help, talk to you. Over here at Money Convos, we have general conversations, and it depends. A lot of these things depend, right? But at investment friend, you can get people to consider your individual situation, look at all the factors involved, and give you some direction which would apply to your unique situation. Your financial situation, your personal situation is different from even your twin brother, your twin sister, your spouse. Everyone is different. So try to get as close to customized direction as you can get. All right. And also here, follow us, Money Convos here on X. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and when you get wherever you listen to your podcast or you watch your YouTube videos, just search for Money Convos and follow us, and tell people to follow us too. We really appreciate that. Spread the word so that in some years to come, we'll all be financially independent. Thank you all for tuning in to listen. Enjoy the rest of your week. Catch you next week. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.